Hi, everybody. This is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country in Hour 1, author and activist Tim McCaskill fills us in on the new Coalition for COVID-Safe Club Reopening, which is calling for a reopening plan when it comes to Toronto Bathhouses. Plus, adventure called, danger answered. Brotherhood, winner of the 2020 Canadian Screen Award for Achievement in Visual Effects. This is a flashback to my 2019 interview with LGBT filmmaker Richard Bell, who talks about his award-winning Canadian film, Brotherhood, based on true events from 1926. And my Big Brother Canada coverage continues with the fourth evicted house guest, Kyle Moore. Plus in Hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, plus voices that you've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house, classic rock. Stay tuned for Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hi, this is Emily Saliers from Indigo Girls.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Harder, porn star, burlesque performer, and the creator of Porn to Be a Star. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Episode of Rainbow Country, as I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. In case you didn't know, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT-FM in Toronto, the sound of your city, and now proudly in syndication on 9 stations across Canada, including Bombshell Radio, Love Your Indie, a 24/7 streaming outlet, and Real Music, Real Ideas, Real People, CKUW-FM in Winnipeg. The Juice, CJUC-FM in Whitehorse. The mighty CKCU-FM in Ottawa. The voice of the Haliburton Highlands, Canoe-FM, Haliburton, Ontario's cottage country. Located in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, CFCR-FM. Newfoundland's only alternative, CHMR-FM in St. John's, Newfoundland. And the latest station to carry Rainbow Country, proudly broadcasting to Kingston, Ontario since 1922. CFRC-FM in Kingston. So, whether you're listening in the Yukon, the Prairies, Ontario's cottage country, Southern Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, the East Coast of Canada in Newfoundland, or you're streaming online, it's because of you tuning in, downloading, streaming, but ultimately listening that has taken this little gay program and made it into a syndicated radio show and a #1 LGBT podcast. And last week, Rainbow Country was #2 on Podomatic's Gay and Lesbian chart. So today in Hour 1, a flashback to my 2019 interview with LGBT filmmaker Richard Bell, who talks about his award-winning Canadian film, Brotherhood. Based on true events from 1926, where a group of teenage boys go on a camping trip, and what transpires is a fight for survival. And author and activist Tim McCaskill fills us in on the new Coalition for COVID-Safe Club Reopening, which is calling for a reopening plan when it comes to Toronto Bathhouses. And in Hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, plus voices that you've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house, and classic rock. But up first, My Big Brother Canada coverage continues with the fourth evicted house guest, Kyle Moore.
House guests, I have the results. By a vote of 7-1. Kyle, I'm sorry, you've been evicted from the Big Brother Canada house. Please get your things and say your goodbyes.
Kyle, how are you?
I'm good, Mark. How are you doing?
I am well. Kyle, you just got evicted from Big Brother Canada 9. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal being out of that Big Brother house. I had a lot of fun in there. Felt like I had a lot of game left in me to play, and we just had a couple bad bounces, and I ended up being the one to get the boot.
So the vote, 7-1. Did that surprise you?
Not at all. I knew Ro would vote to keep me here, and I knew that Tara and Tina and Vic, the only way that they would vote to keep me there is if Jed, Ty, and Beth were on board, which obviously they weren't. I knew that it wouldn't be a 4-4 tie because Kiefer would just send me packing anyways. So I knew it was going to be a 7-1 vote. I kind of saw the writing on the wall in the days to come.
So Kyle, let's go back in time. You find out you're going on to Big Brother Canada 9. Do you have a strategy going into the game?
Yeah, I just wanted to go in there and build personal relationships with people first and foremost, and get them to trust you. And you want to get to know each other, become friends before you get straight into the game. I thought I did that with some people, and one of my biggest strategies was to win some comps, which I did zero of. So it's tough to say that I should still be there. I didn't do well in comps. I knew that was something I'd have to rely on, being an athletic guy. If I'm going to look the part, I have to play the part. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it done in the 4 comps I played in, and wish I had another shot.
So would you say that you stuck to your original strategy, or did you evolve your strategy as you got into the house and the game evolved?
Yeah, I think I stuck to it with a couple people. I developed a relationship really early with Rohan, obviously. And I wanted to have that ride or die that I could go to with anything that I could trust completely. It was tough because we got stuck in some hot water really early, and we're involved in a lot of the drama, me and Ro, and we just kind of got dragged into it. So my strategy had to kind of keep evolving, and I couldn't really play the game I wanted to play because it seemed like we were putting out fires in the first couple weeks. But I thought we were in an okay position if Kiefer doesn't win that HOH or Jed, Ty, or Beth. Works out that the guy we keep wins and sends me home. So it's quite ironic.
Well, Kiefer did win that HOH, and he nominated you, and he was successful because now your ass is grass.
Yeah.
So here's the question, Kyle. Why do you think Kiefer wanted you out of the house? Why did he see you as such a threat?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, he wanted Rohan out of the house. And when that didn't happen, he knew he had to split us up, just being 2 strong guys who should do good in comps. I mean, I wasn't doing good in comps. That could be a reason for him to keep me around, but he saw me as a threat in that way, I believe. And I kind of thought that I was the glue holding a lot of the pieces of our alliance together. So in his eyes, trying to get rid of that and separate that might turn those 6 against each other. I don't think it's going to work, but he did what he did.
So let's talk about campaigning. You seem to leave your campaigning maybe for the last minute. Is that accurate to say? And if so, why did you leave your campaigning to the last minute?
Yeah, I did. You know what? When Austin was the replacement, it was pretty tough for me being on the block next to my number one in the game, and then sitting next to my number two in the game, and someone that I just started developing a strong connection with. I needed like a day or two to think about the angle I was going to come at it with, and without throwing her under the bus, and process everything that was going on without saying the wrong thing. So I did hear murmurs that the vote might be changing. People are considering it. So I kind of went to Austin and told her I don't want either of us to leave with our heads down, that we didn't campaign. I don't want her to leave and be like, I didn't campaign for myself against this guy. I don't want me to leave without campaigning against her and for myself. So we both kind of went and did our pitches, and I guess they just really wanted me out.
So you and Rohan, you guys were a powerful duo in the game. What was it that you saw in Rohan early on in the game that made you say, I want to work with him?
Yeah, I saw his sarcasm, his humor. It just matched up perfectly with me, who I am. It seemed like we had similar lifestyles outside this game. He reminded me a lot of my friends, and just kind of looking at him, I knew I could trust him. He's a really smart guy. He kicked my ass in a couple chess games. So I knew he was a strategic guy, and I thought maybe I could be the physical guy and win those comps for us, and he would be the strategic one. Turned into quite the bromance, and now I have a brother for life, and I'm excited.
So Kyle, in your opinion, who do you think is playing the best game right now?
I honestly think that Braden and Austin are playing a really good game. It might have put a dent in them now that they were associated with me and Rohan in an alliance, people are assuming, which we were, but I'm hoping that one of them can win this next HOH and take a shot at those people that are stirring up these things. And I think they will do really well.
So you spent a number of weeks in the BBcan9 house. What was the hardest part about this experience for you? What was the most challenging part?
Oh man, it's crazy town in there. You don't know who to trust. You get paranoid. You hear your name from a million different sources of things that aren't true. And I think that's one thing coming in I did not expect. I didn't expect lies to get pulled from the clouds so much early on. I thought, words might get twisted and stuff like that, but I didn't expect blatant lies that early. So that was tough to deal with. And as well as just developing those connections and then having to let them go. It was really tough saying bye to Ro, and I tried to keep my goodbye to Austin to a little bit of a minimum because I knew that one was going to be really tough for me. But those connections run deep, and having to leave those suck.
My last question for you, best part about being part of Big Brother Canada 9?
Yeah, it's unreal and surreal that I'm now part of the BBcan fam. It's a tight-knit group. I think the cast we had this season was amazing. So many great people from all different walks of life. And I think my favorite part is just those friendships that I'm going to take from here on out. I know Braden lives close to me on Calgary. I'll see him all the time. Obviously, I have a connection with Rohan and Austin. I can't wait to see those two again. And just getting together again and reliving this crazy experience that we all had. It's something that's so unique to us. And you know what? I can't wait for the opportunities that come from it.
Kyle, well said, well done, well played. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Big Brother Canada airs on Global TV Mondays 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, and Thursdays 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. Plus, free next day streaming at BigBrotherCanada.ca. I'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Saida Garrett, co-writer of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mr. Mark Tara.
Tim McCaskill is the author of 2016's Queer Progress, From Homophobia to Homo Nationalism. He's also an LGBT and AIDS advocate, and today he's going to fill us in on the new Coalition for COVID-Safe Club Reopening, which is calling for a reopening plan when it comes to Toronto Bathhouses. Tim McCaskill, hi, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I am good. Thank you for being here, Tim. Okay, let's start here. The Coalition for COVID-Safe Club Reopening calls for a reopening plan for Toronto Bathhouses. First of all, what organizations are involved in this new coalition?
Well, it's kind of an ad hoc coalition that's being put together. Black Cap, which is the Black HIV/AIDS organization, Alliance for South Asian AIDS Prevention, and ACAS, Asian Community AIDS Services are all members. There's a number of bathhouse workers. I'm there as well. It's sort of it's a loose coalition of people who are concerned to make sure that this reopening happens as soon as and as safe as possible.
So when did these organizations and these individuals, when did you guys all coalesce, so to speak?
It came together at the initiative of some of the bathhouse staff, workers, maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And the group developed a kind of a common framework to think about the problem, and then approached Toronto Public Health to try to get them involved.
And what is it that the coalition is looking to get Toronto Public Health to do exactly?
Well, bathhouses are, as you know, a pretty unique kind of institution. People go there to have sex. And the provincial guidelines, of course, don't make a lot of room for that kind of specificity. And so bathhouses end up falling in categories maybe around bars and restaurants, maybe around hotels, maybe around personal care, but maybe not. And so they don't really fit in any of the criterion that the province has come up with. And so what we're looking for is that people with public health expertise, people with expertise in communicable infections, and especially around COVID, actually take a look at the way the baths are set up, what kinds of social interactions are expected to happen there, and then come up with guidelines about when it's safe to be reopened or under what conditions they should be able to be reopened.
So on Monday, March 22nd, the petition was scheduled to be up for discussion at the Toronto Board of Health. Did that discussion happen? Do you know?
There was a deputation by one of the members of the group, one of the bathhouse staff, who gave a short deputation. There wasn't a major discussion. We'd hoped that we would be able to get a motion from the Board of Health, sort of calling on public health to sit down with the bathhouse owners, the staff, people in the coalition, the AIDS service organizations, to actually figure out what it would take to get these places open in a safe manner. We didn't get that motion. There was a pre-meeting with some members from the Board of Health and members of the coalition, but they were concerned that the bathhouse operators had not been fully looped into things, and so they didn't want to go ahead with a motion that might put them on the spot.
So from what you just said, where do you think it's going to go from there?
Well, right now we're trying to engage in discussions with the operators. They certainly want the places open, and they, I think, want to make sure it's as safe as possible. But there are different interests here. The operators really do want to get things going as soon as possible. Others of us may be more concerned with the public health aspect. And so there's things that need to be worked out. I mean, the operators could probably get permission to open when things are at a certain level, given the broad guidelines. But the question is, do these guidelines actually grapple with the kinds of activities that happen in baths? And we want to make sure that we're getting a plan that actually does keep people safe rather than one that actually conforms to some general guideline.
So do you know specifically what sort of guidelines you want the bathhouses to implement if they're able to open safely?
Yeah, there were some suggestions made, but basically nobody in the coalition would consider ourselves a public health expert. And so what we would like is to have some of that expertise that is in public health or in the medical profession to say, okay, this is what we've got here. This is how these places work. They're not quite a hotel. They're not quite a bar. They're not quite a restaurant. They're a bit of all of those things. They're not quite a gym, but other stuff goes on there as well. What does that look like for you? What kind of advice can you give us? And there was talk about having people come in only on short shifts, not mixing with other people, but just coming in couples or triples, I guess, or whatever, assuming those people were in kind of a bubble. But, those were just some suggestions that were thrown out there. We don't really have anything that we're pushing for in terms of what that looks like, but we just want to make sure that when those things are developed, they're developed with real expertise, not with conforming to a general guideline.
So let me know if I'm correct in this. Bathhouses in BC, Manitoba, Quebec, and Nova Scotia have been allowed to reopen, but COVID monitoring plans raise privacy concerns. Is that accurate?
I am not sure about all of the places now. I know that they opened in Montreal and then they closed again. There's been a lot of opening and closing. It seems to me that if they are indeed open and people are monitoring them, I don't know how effective that is. I mean, how do you monitor a dark room, right? A back room? How do you monitor? You've got 100 rooms in some of these establishments. There's no way that staff can actually monitor that, all the activity that's going on in those kinds of places. So I don't know if the monitoring thing is a very useful approach. This is, COVID. It's not even in situations where they had to monitor sexual activity at certain points in the AIDS epidemic, and that didn't work. And, sexual activity is a lot clearer activity to see than two people getting too close and somebody coughing. I mean, that's, it's much more difficult. So, maybe if public health experts say that monitoring works and staff, people who are there saying, well, I guess we could do this, or that would be a reasonable thing to do, that might work. But my sense of it is that staff would be really not reluctant, but would really question the efficacy of monitoring around an illness like this, which is airborne and, can pass to people simply because they're in too close contact rather than because they're engaged in a very specific activity.
And Tim, do you see that there might come a tipping point in the not too distant future where some of the bathhouses in Toronto will close permanently?
Well, that's the worry, right? That's certainly the worry that bathhouses, and we've lost a lot of the bathhouses in Toronto. There's a lot of competition, I think, with the apps and things. People are hooking up in different ways. So that is always the worry, that we want to make sure that these places are viable, right? But we also want to make sure that they're safe. I mean, the worst scenario that could happen would be if they opened prematurely and there was, an outbreak, and people went there and they took it home to their extended families or to their workplaces or whatever, and it produced an outbreak, and then they had to close again. I mean, that would be really bad publicity. It would be really bad for everybody, not to mention the people who were ill. So what we want to make sure is that kind of thing doesn't happen, that when people go to the bathhouses, that they can be assured that they're entering as safe a world as absolutely possible, and do that in a way that bathhouses are still economically feasible. Because some of you could say, well, only 2 people at a time in the bathhouse, but you can't open a bathhouse like that, right? It just doesn't work. That's not why people go there.
So talk to me about bathhouses are establishments where gay men go to have sex with each other. Let's be honest. But there's
absolutely.
But there's more. There can be more to that. It can be a place where men get together to not just have sex, but to also socialize. Talk to me about that aspect of bathhouses.
Yeah, it's not just and or either, right? People do both things at the same time. We really recognize this. I mean, it'll take you back into ancient history, but when the baths were raided in Toronto in 1981, and at that time, there were this small group of activists like us who, were kind of young and arrogant and, turned up our nose at these people who just went to baths, who just went to bars, who, weren't politically conscious enough and all of this kind of stuff, right? Because they didn't read our little newspapers and that kind of thing. And then when the bath raids happened, and we organized the demonstration, and I can remember thinking, oh my God, it's going to be at midnight. There's only 50 people showing up. The police are going to literally kill us. And then 3,000 people showed up. And it was like a light bulb going on. We suddenly realized that these places that we've been kind of snobby about were places actually where people were making connections, not just sexual connections, but like all sorts of social connections as well. And so there were all these people who knew each other. So when the baths were raided, it wasn't just the 300 people that were arrested, but it was all the other people that didn't happen to be there that night, who knew those people, who met those people sometime when they were in the baths, had produced this web of connections, which was really the foundation of the kind of community that we were trying to build. And so we began to realize that, and I think that's still true of baths. I mean, when I go to the baths, I may not be representative of everybody, but I tend to be a talker, right? I like to talk to people after sex. Usually before sex, everybody's more interested in the sex. But once you get somebody relaxed after sex, you can find out all sorts of really interesting things about people and make all sorts of community links and connections and understand stuff. And I think baths play a really important role in that, because they bring us together. We certainly have sex, but people are also socializing, also just talking to friends. And I've got friends, for example, that I see in the baths quite often who I've never had sex with and not particularly interested in, but we always have a good conversation and make connections. And that's really important in terms of building community.
And some of these organizations, some of them in Toronto, these bathhouses are licensed.
Yeah.
And sometimes they serve food.
That's right. And so they can, you're thinking of Excess, which is a licensed place. And if you go into the lounge, some people sit at the bar. It's like a bar for them, right? And they watch people go in and out, and maybe after a number of beers, they'll wander off into the halls for a bit. But for them, it's a social site that they feel comfortable in. And it's really important to have those kinds of sites, so that in a bathhouse, unlike a bar where people are, maybe socializing as well, but then there's, I'm going to pick somebody up and this kind of cruising stuff. You can cruise in a bar, in a bath, right? And it has a kind of a different space to it than if you're off into the halls. And so you can, if you don't really want to pick anybody up, but just maybe want to meet people, then bathhouse serves those kinds of needs as well.
Tim McCaskill, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for everything that you've done.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Bill 7, to ban discrimination in employment, government services, and housing, based on a person's sexual orientation, was up for a vote at Queen's Park. Most NDP and Liberal MPPs supported the bill, but without some progressive Conservative legislators backing, a divisive split could rack the province. 4 PCs decided to break party ranks to vote with their conscience and support Bill 7. Cabinet Minister and MPP Dennis Timbrell did it to show solidarity for his beloved brother, the well-known drag queen Rusty Ryan. And for me, a gay politician who was not yet out, I had to take a stand. We were known as the Gang of Four. I'm former Cabinet Minister and MPP Phil Gillies. The date, December 2nd, 1986, when LGBT rights came to Ontario.
Up next, a flashback to my 2019 interview with LGBT filmmaker Richard Bell, who talks about his award-winning film, Brotherhood.
My paddle's keen and bright, flashing with silver. Follow the wild goose flight, dip, dip, and swing. Dip, dip, and swing her back, flashing with silver. Follow the wild goose flight, dip, dip, and swing.
All right, boys.
This is the Brotherhood of St. Andrews.
Hello, boys.
Hello, sir. Let's get to work, boys.
At this camp, you'll get out of it what you put in. Games, duty, devotion.
Risk builds character, Mr. Langdon.
Challenge builds character.
This is a leadership camp, not a holiday.
What are the chances of us getting to the shore? Do you see the shore?
From this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today has shed his blood with me, shall be my brother.
Storyteller, truth seeker, filmmaker. He is writer and director Richard Bell. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Wow, I'm loving that introduction.
It's very short.
No, it's short, cogent, sweet. I'm honored. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here in studio to have your voice and your story be heard by the LGBT community and
Of course.
beyond. So thank you for that.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, let's start here. A story dating back to 1926, Balsam Lake, about 2 hours from Toronto.
Yes.
Brotherhood. You wrote this film. You directed this film. Essentially, what is this film about?
Well, Brotherhood is based on the true story of the Brotherhood of St. Andrew Anglican group, which was out of St. James Cathedral here in Toronto. And these boys and some camp leaders assembled on the shores of Balsam Lake at Long Point for 2 weeks of a leadership camp of watercraft and kite making, marshmallow roasts, all that kind of fun stuff that we can all relate to. And they set off across Balsam Lake in a 30-foot war canoe, which is a very long and slender canoe. And they were just going across the lake to Coboconk to pick up supplies. And a summer storm descended on them. This summer storm kicked up from nowhere, and they got broadsided by a wave, and they went tumbling into the wash. And this story is a survival story about these boys, this band of brothers, trying to survive the evening, clinging to an overturned canoe. So that's what happens in the movie. But what it's about is, I think it's a story about masculinity. It's a story about boyhood and manhood. It's very much a story about identity and coming of age, sacrifice, heroism. There's a ticking time clock. It's ultimately, it's a story about boys becoming men over the course of an evening, trying to stay alive and keep their wits. And it's very much informed by the decade preceding it. Canada, of course, was a very young country at the time. We'd just come out of the Great War, which is when Canada came of age itself and joined, the Brotherhood of Nations, really. The two camp counselors were both veterans of the Great War. And they approach educating and nurturing their charges, these young boys, in very different ways. So again, a study of masculinity. A lot of the boy campers are male archetypes. So we have like the rebel, kind of like the River Phoenix, the kid who smokes behind the cookhouse. We have the nerd, the wimp, the kid brother, the older brother, the brain. Although it's a true story and it's based on real characters, for me it was a study into the whole idea of masculinity and identity.
My understanding is that you came to the story in 2006 while you were in Toronto?
Yeah. So
here's a question. What was it that was so compelling about the story when you heard about it in 2006 that said, this is going to be my next film? What was so compelling about it?
It gave me goosebumps when I read this story. It was just a tiny little newspaper article about an 80th anniversary mass that was happening in Kirkfield for these boys. And the story about these boys hanging onto a canoe and these boys giving up their spots on the canoe for the younger boys and trading out places. And some of them, even, and this isn't a spoiler, but some of them even just swimming away silently. It made to die. It made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. And I just thought, at that time, 2006, I think it was like when Facebook was really getting off the ground and it just became, I felt like, and we still are in now, like this Facebook, Instagram kind of like, I'm fabulous and you're not culture, which I felt in that story didn't exist. Like it was a kind of like them being citizens and this kind of like sense of duty and honor and sacrifice and putting others before ourselves. I wondered then, and I still wonder now if that kind of quiet dignity still exists.
How would you describe this film? Is it a docudrama? How would you?
No, definitely not. I mean, I shy away from anything with the word docu in it. Like, I'm not a documentary filmmaker, and this is a true story. It's an unknown story. I feel like I found buried treasure when I found it. I've laid my imagination around the real events, and although it's very interesting because when I went back and looked at some of the scanned newspaper articles, like years after I had written Brotherhood, I was actually quite surprised by how closely I did follow the chain of events.
How easy or how difficult was it to research?
So I started researching in probably 2010, 2011. It's a lot easier now because a lot of the public libraries have scanned the microfiche. So in the past where it would have been like, feel like you're cracking open the Ark of the Covenant, now it's just, at your fingertips, right? So it's a lot easier now. I did hire a researcher at the Vancouver Public Library just when I first started. She found some rudimentary information, but basically, like now, as much as I like to complain about technology and as much as I think it distances us from each other, and that's also a theme in the movie, it is a great time to be alive, and it is a great time to be a filmmaker if you are, a treasure hunter and if you are a truth seeker, because that information is at our fingertips. So it wasn't particularly hard to find. The thing that really amazed me was that it was in newspapers all across the world. Like it was in the Sydney Herald, it was in the United States, it was in the United Kingdom. So for such a Canadian kind of provincial story to capture the imagination of, the English-speaking world, I thought was quite extraordinary.
When you were doing your research, did anything surprise you? Did anything jump out at you? I would say no. Like I felt very blessed in the capacity that the story, just the true story, had such high drama and such high stakes. I think for me, the biggest aha moment was when I discovered what the story was about, in the sense of like what the theme was. Like what I described at the beginning of the show is what happens in the story. But as a screenwriter and as a storyteller, it behooves me to find out what the theme is, the theme being the cinematic glue that holds the whole thing together. When I was pitching it to producers, they always said, how is this relevant to an audience in modern day? And when I cracked the theme,
that was kind of like my aha moment. And for me, the theme was the boy crisis, which is, a real-time crisis that we're living in now that people have been talking about probably since about the 1990s. And I would say that it sort of starts with, the Columbine shootings and kind of goes all the way up to, like, say, modern incel culture, that the state of boyhood is sort of in a state of jeopardy, and that boys are underperforming in schools, that they're listless, they're angry, they're apathetic, they're alone, they don't know how to be in the 21st century, whereas the manly, mannered middle ground, like we don't want toxic masculinity, and I've talked to female friends who have boys, and they don't even know, how do we raise boys today in a way that's what is beautiful manhood? And, there's no easy answer to that, right?
Yeah.
So cracking that, I think, was my aha moment. I read this book called Real Boys, and then also another book called Last Child in the Woods, which is about nature deficit disorder, which is a philosophy that not just boys and girls, like children, need to return to being in nature, and how curative nature is. And, even, I hate to say it, but just being in Toronto for the last 8 hours, I just see how crazy making it is, just, being in the rat race and being in the subway, and just how kind of natural it is. Like, and then another book that I researched was called Iron John, which is a story of myth. Manhood through myth. And that was like a big moment for me as well. So,
how long did it take to make this film?
From stem to stern, probably about 9 years. A very, very long time. So this is my second film, and there's a saying in North America that making your first film is easy and making your second film is hard. And that's true. That's really true. My first film was called 18. It had gay content. It was narrated by Sir Ian McKellen and had gay characters in it. And it was very hard for me to get that film off the ground in 2005, 2006 because of the queer content in the movie and because it sort of made people feel uncomfortable. And it was interesting that my film that I did after that was Brotherhood, which is kind of like more traditional old Hollywood film, which is basically kind of like straight and quote unquote heteronormative and about a bunch of white guys. And whereas now we're living in a culture and there's more of an appetite for queer stories. So for me, you can't predict what's going to be the next big thing, right? And but for me, it's kind of interesting because I'm like sitting here, going into the 2020s going, I think I might have made my movies in reverse.
This tragedy took place in 1926.
Yes.
And I'm curious to know, have you heard from any of the ancestors of the people that passed away?
Well, that's a great question because I just did. And I had a feeling that people were going to start coming out of the woodwork as the film started gaining traction. But it was interesting because I was just at a screening in Haliburton, which is this tiny community that's nestled between Algonquin Park and
cottage country.
Yeah, and Coboconk. And Coboconk is where the boys were headed. So it felt very apt and very poignant to present it to the community there. And a couple of days before the festival director contacted me and said, Arthur Lambden, his niece has been in touch with us. And Arthur Lambden's played by Brendan Fletcher in the movie. And I was really kind of nervous. I was like, oh no, what is she going to expect? And, it is a true story. It is based on real events. And I didn't, create her uncle. I created my version of Arthur Lambden. And it's not even my version anymore. It's Brendan Fletcher's version of Arthur Lambden. And so she came to the screening and she had 3 pages prepared of a speech, but the festival director stopped her from doing that and just said, let's focus on the movie and focus on Richard. And she did say a poem that Arthur had written after the tragedy in 1926. So that felt very moving and appropriate. She didn't really say much to me. I know that she liked the film. I mean, God bless her. She was probably 85 years old. She did say, I'm so glad that Arthur has a mustache in this movie because he had a mustache his entire life. And it's also really funny because Brendan Fletcher, we cast him quite late. We cast him about a week before we started shooting, and he texted me a picture of him. He's also from Vancouver, and he had a mustache in the picture. And he's like, what do you think of the mustache? Because he had found an old picture of Arthur Lambden sporting a mustache. And I was like, no, absolutely not. And it was actually my producer who said, no, I like the mustache. And I was like, yeah, it might be good because Brendan Fletcher has a bit of a baby face, and, you know, you want something to differentiate him from the boys. And so anyway, the mustache saved the day with the descendant of Arthur Lambden.
Well said, Richard Bell. On that note, let's take a break. We'll be right back.
I'm Billy Newton Davis, and we're sitting here on Rainbow Country with the fabulous Mark Tara.
So this recently came to my attention. Rainbow Country is now one of the top 100 LGBT podcasts you should follow. Who knew? Well, the people at feedspot.com knew. Trusted by 4 million users in over 150 countries. Plus, at the Better Business Bureau, their customer reviews have it at 4 out of 5 stars. Now, I know what you might be saying. You're saying, Mark, what is FeedSpot? Well, in its most fundamental of terms, it is a subscription-based aggregator where you can monitor your brand. You can do a one-click save to services like Instapaper, Pocket, Evernote. You can also do a one-click share on any article and share that with maybe your Facebook friends, your Twitter followers. It also combines several RSS feeds into one single feed and so much more. Plus, they have an LGBT podcast blog. Who knew? And that is where Rainbow Country, at the time of this recording, is number 47. To check out the full LGBT podcast listing, just Google FeedSpot LGBT Podcast. Again, a special thanks to everyone at feedspot.com. I want to talk about the look of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Moments in the film, and this is just coming from me, little gay old me, and the little gay part of me. There were moments in the film where, especially focusing on the young men in their 1920s swimsuits, frolicking on the beach.
Right.
There were moments when, for me, it reminded me of Pet Shop Boys' music video for Being Boring.
Oh, wow. I love that video.
Directed by fashion photographer Bruce Weber.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, were you conscious of capturing, say, young men's sensuality when it came to those scenes? Was that something that you were conscious of? Oh, yeah. I was definitely conscious of it. I think any story or movie that kind of involves a bunch of guys who are good looking, who are palling around. And, you know, as I mentioned, the camaraderie and all that kind of stuff is going to smack of a certain homoeroticism. And so I knew that I wouldn't say that I wrote any homoerotica into the movie. Because I just knew that it was just going to happen, right? Like there was going to be some kind of like a bit of, you know, Abercrombie. Your horse playing.
Yeah, there's going to be a certain amount of Abercrombie and Fitchness to you know, the camaraderie.
So it wasn't just me.
No, it wasn't just you. The thing that was interesting, though, was that I had people who read the script who kind of like who were discouraging me from having moments like that, who would say things like, oh, that's going to be a bit gay, or, you know, people are going to think that director.
And what's wrong with that?
Well, yeah, exactly. To be honest with you, I actually thought the movie was going to turn out more homoerotic than it did.
Do tell.
Well, you know, and I think that's probably because of the actors. I think I'm pretty sure that all the actors are straight. And I think that just the choices that they made were kind of informed by heterosexual actors. So it was just kind of interesting. So I get more of kind of like a hockey team kind of feel, camaraderie to their joshing and razzing than I do like a Herb Ritzian kind of homoerotic, you know. But I don't mind that people see that. Like it's there.
I guess we all see it through our own individual lenses.
And for me, like the pleasure now as this movie goes out into the world is seeing the movie through other people's eyes. It's like seeing the movie again or seeing it for the first time. There's this story I remember about this English professor who said, I wish I could read Romeo and Juliet for the very first time. And for me, it's like I wish I could read or I could see Brotherhood for the very first time. The closest I can come to that is when I talk to someone like you who says, you know, because I kind of forgot about that, like, but it's there. And so that's a real gift for me.
Are you happy with the film?
Oh, I'm totally happy with the film. The thing that surprises me the most about Brotherhood is how much it turned out the way I wanted it. That kind of shocks me. And I remember when we wrapped and I went back to Vancouver, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I can't believe how it turned out the way I wanted it to. And, you know, post-production was very rough for me and it wasn't my favorite time. But coming out on the other end, the movie turned out the way I wanted it to, and I'm totally happy with it. And you know what? To be honest with you, if I never make another movie again, I could live with that because I would rather make the movie I want and never do it again than compromise and make a movie that I'm not happy with just to keep working.
Why was post-production so difficult for you?
It was
challenging.
It was difficult in the sense that production is the most exciting time because there's a full army there and everybody has the same singular purpose. And all of a sudden, the story that's been, you know, gestating in your mind is now everybody's story. So the costume designer is coming to me with pictures and, you know, the production designer is showing me a picnic basket or a fishing rod. And the, you know, speaking of camaraderie and esprit de corps, there's that. There's everybody is moving in one direction to create this piece of work and everybody's on board. When production wraps, everybody goes away. Like everybody goes away and it almost, I mean, not everybody, like the relationships I had in post-production were very special in the sense that I worked with Sarah Petty, my editor, for many months. And she became like where Adam was like my boyfriend on set. Now Sarah Petty became my girlfriend in post-production. And then Sarah went away and then I worked with William Rowson, my composer in Vancouver and we worked out of the Vancouver School of Music, and that was a great experience working with him. And then I worked with my sound mixer, and we would spend weeks together. But apart from those very close working relationships, it's felt like everybody sort of disappeared. And that's not entirely true, but it becomes a lot. It's not even solitary, but I miss production because I felt the wave and the power and the energy of an ensemble.
Did you feel abandoned?
Gee.
To put the pieces together now?
I think the thing that I liked the most about production was that we were on a schedule, and post-production there was no schedule. It went on for like a year and 10 months.
But didn't you have an end date?
We didn't really. Okay. And with Brotherhood, and I think probably with a lot of Canadian films, you just start running out of money.
Okay.
And you can't, like production is, everything is organized and detailed to the nth degree, whereas post-production was more like freeballing it. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't go as fast as I wanted it to go. Mm-hmm. And for me, sometimes that was excruciating.
Well said. Honest. So when audiences see Brotherhood, what do you want them to come away with after they've seen your film?
I want people to walk away with from the movie. I mean, thematically, it really is an exploration of masculinity in its many different varied forms. So that doesn't mean that the film is just for guys. Like, that's like saying like Dead Poets Society is just for guys, or Stand By Me is just for guys. However, I do worry about the state of boyhood these days, and I worry about our boys today. And I do hope that boys coming out of it, I hope it makes them want to be better men. I hope it makes men want to be better men, because I think that we have some problems right now, and we have some challenges, and I think that we can be better. And I think that looking at a movie from yesteryear, about yesteryear, that feels current in the sense that we can be better, we can do more. The definition I heard once of the word character is that character is what you do when no one is looking. And that means a lot to me. It's not about what we show people on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. It's not what we demonstrate. It's what we do in those private moments when no one is looking. No one is going to congratulate us for doing that. And I think that what these boys exhibited on that night in 1926 was true character. And I hope that it inspires, like what I remember when I saw Saving Private Ryan. I was living in Toronto in the 90s. And I remember walking out of that movie going, okay, there's no war going on, but I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And I didn't, of course. I didn't join the Peace Corps. And maybe the feeling didn't last. But in that moment, I felt, and maybe it affected me in another way, but that movie made me want to be a better person. And that's not my favorite movie of all time. But I do feel like movies can inspire us to be just a little bit better than we were yesterday.
Well said. Richard Bell, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
This award-winning Canadian film, Brotherhood, is available on streaming including iTunes, Super Channel, YouTube, Shaw, TELUS, Bell, and Rogers. The original motion picture soundtrack is out on Apple Music. And for even more, check out the website, Brotherhood1926.com. Taking us to hour 2 of Rainbow Country, music from the soundtrack of Brotherhood from composer William Rawson.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us, and of course our artists and the things that we do globally and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
Hi, this is Police Constable Danielle Botno, also known as LGBT Cop, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
This is Hour 2 of Rainbow Country, where I feature music from LGBT artists, independent artists, plus voices that you've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house, and classic rock. So if you stay with me, if you stick with me, I hope you think I'm bringing you music worth hearing. Starting us off, a 3-song classic rock 80s set.
Memories truck and my heart kicking up like a white-tailed buck. And in the middle of spring, you can cut me deep, you can cut me down, you can cut me loose. Don't you know it's okay? Hey. You can kick and scream, you can slap my face, set my wheels on a high-speed chase on you. No matter what you do, wild horses could not drag me away from you. Wild horses could not drag me away from you. And as the sky falls down from the midnight blue, spitting like bullets on a hot tin roof ahead, it's a beautiful sound. Oh, it's me and you in a 5-bed truck in a foot of red mud, just my luck, yeah. 100 miles out of town. You can call me fool, you can call me blind, you can call it quits. Can't hear a word that you say. Cause if I had you once, I'm gonna have you twice. I follow my heart instead of good advice. Say you, no matter what you do, cigarettes and cocktail gloves and strapless dress. She cuts a perfect silhouette, but she's a dark angel with dark glasses, a fleeting beauty as the nighttime passes. I say,
We just heard Black Cars. Before that, Wild Horses. And starting off that 3-song classic rock 80s set, I Just Wanna Stop. Those 3 tracks from Canadian music icon Gino Vanelli, and his current record is 2019's Wilderness Road. Up next, a 3-song R&B set.
Tu te cherches quoi? On raconterait la mort. Tu te prends pour qui? Toi aussi, tu détestes la vie. Dans sa chambre, Joël et sa valise. On regarde sur ses fringues, sur les murs des photos, sans regret, sans mélo. La porte est claquée, Joël est barré.
I'm a Driving down those city streets, waiting to get down.
We just heard Pull Up to the Bumper. Before that, Demolition Man. And starting off the 3-song R&B set, I've Seen That Face Before. Those 3 tracks from the one and only Grace Jones. And by the way, have you seen her 2017 documentary, Grace Jones, Bloodlight and Bammy? Well, it's available on Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, and iTunes. And trust me, it's worth the watch.
Hi, I'm Gord Depp of the Spoons. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, a 3-song pop set.
You said way too many words, dripping like poison on your tongue. You've been digging in the dirt, now your final day has come. Diamonds in your eyes, don't even apologize, 'cause all of that hurt is a blaze you can't outrun. Boy, I know that you're regretting it, I see that you ain't getting it. We come to the end, I'm a lying, I'm a begging. Armageddon, Armageddon, I'm gonna blow this up, this up. You say it's gonna be different this time, boy, I don't give a, I don't give a. Armageddon, Armageddon, I'm gonna blow this up, this up. You say it's gonna be different this time, boy, I don't give a, I don't give a. Armageddon, Armageddon, Armageddon. Now I'm tearing down the walls, destroying everything we had. Make you stand and watch it fall, with my knife deep in your back. No tears, no more lies, your sins burned alive. Gotta sweep away all, like dust into the cracks. Boy, I think that you're forgetting that you made the bed, you're lying, and we come to the end, ain't no use in you denying. Armageddon, Armageddon, I'm gonna blow this up, this up. You say it's gonna be different this time, boy, I don't give a, I don't give a. Armageddon, Armageddon, I'm gonna blow this up, this up. You say it's gonna be different this time, boy, I don't give a, I don't give a. Armageddon, Armageddon, Armageddon. Everything we had in flames, it's gone, it's gone. The only thing left is your shame. So long, so long, so long. I'm gonna blow this up, this up. You say it's gonna be different this time, boy, I don't give a, I don't give a, I don't give a. Armageddon, Armageddon, I'm gonna blow this up, this up. You say it's gonna be different this time, boy, I don't give a, I don't give a. Armageddon, Armageddon, Armageddon. Armageddon. Blue is the waterfall of tears I can't escape. Pink, when I fall in love and start to blush, I can't control my face. Red is when I'm mad as hell with fire in my eyes. Green is when my jealousy, it eats me up. And white are the down on me and everything's okay. It's okay. And purple when I'm on top of the world. Wanna feel it all, every single shade. Black is low when I think I lost all hope. Not this time, not this time. I'll show my colors, colors, burning and bright. I'll show my colors, colors, waving them high. There's like no other, don't wanna live in black and white. Will you show me your colors if I show you mine? Will you show me? Will you show me your colors? Show me your colors. Oh, will you show me? Will you show me your colors, colors? If I show you mine, if I show you mine, yeah, I'll show my colors, colors, burning and bright. I'll show my colors, colors, waving them high. There's like no other, don't wanna live in black and white. Will you show me your colors if I show you mine? Colors, colors, burning and bright. I'll show my colors, colors, waving them high. There's like no other, don't wanna live in black and white. Will you show me your colors if I show you mine? Walls, walls, built these walls. Wanna take them all down, down, down. Talk, talk, no more talk. That ain't what I need now, right now. Wanna peel away every layer. Wanna reveal everything. Even though I know you could ruin me. I wanna get emotional. Yeah, let my heart strip off all its clothes. Lay my body under a microscope. Every nerve exposed. I wanna get emotional. I wanna get emotional. Guess, guess, no guesswork. You don't gotta read my mind. Dance, dance, explore it. I ain't got nothing to hide, hide. Wanna peel away every layer. Wanna reveal everything. Take it down below the surface. I wanna get emotional. Let my heart strip off all its clothes. Lay my body under a microscope. Every nerve exposed. I wanna get emotional. I wanna get emotional. That's right. I wanna get,
We just heard Emotional. Before that, Colors. And starting off that 3-song pop set, Armageddon. Those 3 tracks from the winner of CTV's The Launch Season 2, Michelle Tracy. And for all things Tracy, check out her website, michelletracy.com. Up next, a 3-song bitch track set.
Really? Karma, baby. That's right, darling. You reap what you sow. Yes, you do. Do you think that your dirty deeds were gonna bring you rewards? Did you think that the lies that you told would go unnoticed? Well, I'm here to tell you, darling, karma is a bitch. And you know what? That's right. She's a bitch. Remember that time? Remember that time? Remember that time? Remember when you promised to pay me? Remember that time? But you didn't. And then a week later you lost your brand new iPhone. That's karma, baby. But I guess as long as you owe me, I'll never be broke. Karma is a bitch. Karma is a bitch. Karma is karma. That's right, darling. She's a bitch. You reap what you sow. Karma. She's a bitch. Remember when you promised? Remember that time. Remember that time. But you didn't. Oh, let's not forget when you tried to work me for my vocals and steal my track. He's like, oh, well, I've never even heard your track. I was like, really? Mm-hmm. And you know what? Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, really? Oh, really? Karma is a bitch. Karma is a bitch. Karma is karma. Karma. She's a bitch. Karma. 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 She's karma is a bitch. Mm-hmm. Karma is a bitch. Karma is a bitch. Karma is a bitch. Karma, she's a bitch. Karma. I'm Legends, darling. And don't you ever forget it. Karma, baby. Remember when the club closed and you came to pay me with a bump and a bottle? Well, the last time I checked, Con Ed doesn't take either. Coins, darling. That's what I need. And besides, it's not like I could squeeze the makeup back into the tube. So pay me. Reach into your purse, darling, and pay me. Child, I'm so tired of these drug dealers posing as promoters. Oops, did I say that out loud? Pay me. Karma, baby. Karma is a bitch. Never. Karma is a bitch. Karma is karma. Karma. She's a bitch. Karma. 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 Won't make it like that, girlie. What is a bitch? Karma is a never. Karma is a bitch. Karma is a bitch. Karma, she's a bitch. Karma. That's right, darling. You reap what you sow. What are you you talking about, darling? This is my real hair. I really bought it. I'm real, darling. Really a man. Paparazzi, please. Paparazzi, darling. Let it be known that mother has arrived. Look at me, darling. Mira. My face is beat for the gods. Beat for the gods, darling. Mira. The outfit is sickening, bitch. My hair is snatched. The body is sitting, darling. How you gonna come for me looking like that? Walk, darling, walk. Walk, darling, don't run. Listen up, thing one and thing two. What you gonna do? We'll take it to the runway, darling. Feel your moment. I'm feeling mine. Thinking you serving up some RuPaul when in reality you're serving up Lou Rawls. I guess you didn't realize, darling, that I'm the one who put the cunt in country music. Runway is a feeling. You're selling the garment, not catching the bus. Walk, darling, walk. I don't even have to walk, darling. I can raise an eyebrow and slay. Fabulous. How do I look? Phenomenal. How do I look? Fantastic. Fabulous. Phenomenal. Fantastic. Do you hear that? That's my face beat for the gods, darling. The gods! The outfit is sickening, bitch. My hair is snatched. Fodge and floose, darling. Fodge and floose. Body is sitting. How can you come for me looking like that? Thing one and thing two. Darlings, what are you gonna do? The runway, darling. Feel your moment. I'm feeling mine. You better walk, bitch. Slay. Slay the children. Slay the judges. Slay the world. Runway is a feeling, darling. Do you feel it? I do. Step, beat, step, beat, step. Don't forget to pause for effect. How do I look, darling? I look fabulous. How do I look, darling? I look phenomenal. How do I look, darling? I look fantastic. Do you hear that? That's my face, beat for the gods, darling. Beat for the gods. Feel the essence of the moons, darling. Feel the essence of the moons. I'm working, darling. I'm walking, darling. You better act like you know. It's not about how you look. It's about how I look. Mira, mira, mira. Look, darling, mira. Bellissima. you're doing and pay attention. Because this is how it's done. Moving, darling. Feeling, darling. How do I look? Excuse me? What did you say? I'm trying to get to where I'm going. I ain't gonna be too many more of your punks. Look, I'm just trying to get to where I'm going. I ain't bothering nobody. Well, I suggest that you mind your service and I'll mind mine. It's getting so that a girl can't even walk down the street. I mean, if it ain't catcalls, then you want to beat a girl down. All because I look a little sweet. I'm walking through life in nature's disguise, yeah. You laugh at me and you criticize, 'cause I'm happy and I'm carefree and I'm gay. Ain't no fault, it's a fact. I was born this way. Now I won't judge you, don't you judge me. We are the way nature made us to be. I'm happy, I'm carefree, and I'm gay. I was born this way. I'm happy, I'm carefree, and I'm gay. I was born this way. Shaking your head 'cause you don't understand. No, how I could look this good in a dress and still be a man. I've learned to hold my head up high, not in shame or disgrace. I walk amongst all of you, part of the human race. I won't judge you, don't you judge me. We are the way nature meant us to be. 'Cause I'm happy, and I'm carefree, and I'm gay. I was born this way. I'm happy, I'm carefree, and I'm gay. I was born this way. I'm happy, I'm carefree, and I'm gay. Respect yourself, no. If you don't give a heck about the man with the gay flag in his hand, no. Just get out the way and let the gentleman do his thing. You the kind of fella that'll want everything your way. Yeah. Take the sheet off your face, boy. It's a brand new day. Hey, hey. 'Cause if you don't respect yourself, ain't nobody gonna give a good. No. If you disrespect everybody that you run into, yeah. Around the world, do you think anybody's supposed to respect you? From a little bitty boy, run and shout, tell the world about things like you did when you first come here. Keep talking about the president won't stop evolution. No. Put your hand over your mouth when you cough, that'll help the solution. Oh, you curse around women folk and don't even know their name. No. Then you're dumb enough to think that'll make you a big strong man. Hey, respect yourself. Respect yourself. I'm a little bitty boy. Yeah. Respect yourself. Run and shout. Respect yourself. Tell the world about. I won't judge you. You don't judge me. We are the way nature meant us to be. I won't judge you. You don't judge me. We are the way nature meant us to be. I won't judge you. You don't judge me. We are the way.
We just heard I Was Born This Way. Before that, How Do I Look? And starting off that 3-song bitch track set, Karma. Those 3 tracks from Jade Electra. And you can find and stream even more Jade Electra on Spotify. Don't forget to keep up to date with all things country, Rainbow Country. Follow me on socials at Mark Tara Music. Do you have a guest suggestion, maybe a show idea, a show topic? Get in touch, let me know. I have a new email address, rainbowcountry@ciut.fm, and I'll respond. The podcast for Rainbow Country is available on all major platforms. The official Rainbow Country playlist is out on Spotify, and everything is hooked up at marktara.com. Finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, stay well, stay strong, stay safe.
Hi, this is Emily Saliers from Indigo Girls, and you're listening to Rainbow Country.